My name is Rebecca Smiths. The morning of my wedding, I should have felt like the luckiest woman alive. It was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. I had my family, my friends, my future ahead of me. But as I stood there in front of the mirror, the weight of my wedding gown pressing against me, something didn't feel right. I couldn't place it. Maybe it was the soft buzz of anxiety in my chest, the unfamiliar flutter of doubt in my stomach, but I just brushed it off. It was supposed to be a celebration, a moment that would etch itself into memory as a beautiful beginning. When the makeup artist handed me her phone, her eyes darting nervously to the floor, I thought maybe it was just a simple mistake. She whispered that my card had been declined. A mistake. It had to be. There was no other explanation. My fingers trembled as I pulled out my own phone, sure this would be a quick fix. But as I glanced at the message, my blood ran cold. Your account has been frozen by request of cosigner, Ethan Smiths. What? I blinked, certain I was seeing things. I tried calling him, my brother, the one person I always trusted, but the phone rang unanswered. Panic hit me hard then, a deep, suffocating fear that spread from my chest down to my legs. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. My mind raced as I grasped at any possible reason, but there was nothing logical, no reason, just an open wound of betrayal that started to fester. My heart was hammering in my chest, my breath shallow. This couldn't be happening. Not today. Of all days, on my wedding day. I felt like I was drowning. The words on the screen of my phone blurred together as I tried to comprehend what was happening. Ethan, my brother, the one person I trusted most in this world, the one person who promised to always protect me. But now, he was the one pulling the rug out from under me. He had frozen my account, without warning, without explanation, and I had no idea why. My best friend, Sarah, saw the panic in my eyes and rushed over, her face filled with concern. She pulled me into a quiet corner, away from the busy hustle of the wedding preparations. She wasn't saying anything, but I could see it in her eyes. She handed me another phone, her hands trembling as she showed me a message from the bank. Your account has been frozen by request of cosigner, Ethan Smiths. I was on the edge of collapse. This couldn't be happening. Not now. Not today. What the hell, Rebecca? Sarah said softly, her voice shaking. This doesn't make any sense. I shook my head, trying to piece together the fragments of my thoughts. Ethan had always been in control of everything. The business, our lives. After our parents passed away, he stepped in as the head of the family. I never questioned it. I never thought twice. I trusted him. I loved him like a father. But this was different. I tried calling him again. No answer. The sinking feeling in my stomach grew deeper. I had no choice but to confront him. I couldn't let this stand. I couldn't let him ruin my wedding day. But just as I was about to leave, a black car pulled up outside the venue, its tinted windows reflecting the sunlight. I froze. Mr. Caldwell. I stood frozen, staring at the black car parked outside. The air was still, too still, as if the whole world had quieted for that moment. I didn't know who was inside or why they were here, but I felt a chill sweep over me. My mind was racing. Was this some kind of sick joke? Another blow from Ethan? Or maybe it was just a distraction, an attempt to derail me even further. Mr. Caldwell stepped out from the car with the kind of calm authority that always made me feel small. He was my father's lawyer, the man who had always been by our side, managing the family estate, handling the business. He walked toward me slowly, his face serious, the envelope in his hand a tangible symbol of something that was about to change everything. I felt the panic rising again, thick and heavy in my throat. I tried to swallow it down, but it wasn't working. There were no words to explain the rush of emotions flooding me. Fear, confusion, anger. The kind of rage that came from being betrayed by the person you trusted most. My brother, Ethan. Mr. Caldwell didn't waste time with pleasantries. He didn't ask if I was okay or if I was ready for my wedding. He just looked at me and spoke, with the weight of finality. "Rebecca," he said, his voice steady but with a hint of something uncomfortable. "I'm afraid your father's real will has just been unsealed, and it changes everything." The words hit me like a tidal wave, and for a moment, I couldn't breathe. The room around me seemed to tilt, the laughter and the chatter from the wedding party fading into the background. My legs felt weak, and I had to brace myself against the wall. Mr. Caldwell held out the envelope. "Your father left clear instructions," he said, and I could see the unease in his eyes now. "Instructions that Ethan tried to hide from you." The moment. Mr. Caldwell opened the envelope. I felt like everything I had ever known about my family was unraveling. His hands trembled just slightly as he pulled out the piece of paper, and for the first time, I saw him hesitate. It was as though even he was unsure of what was about to come. But it didn't matter. He cleared his throat and began reading, his voice cutting through the heavy silence that had fallen over the crowd. "To my daughter Rebecca, I leave all controlling shares of the company, the estate, and full financial independence. Ethan is to serve only as interim trustee until her 25th birthday." The words echoed in my head, like a drumbeat, getting louder and louder. The shock hit me all at once, but in that moment, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. My mind was scrambling to catch up with the reality of what I was hearing. The room felt like it was closing in on me. The wedding guests, the photographers, the musicians, all of them silent witnesses to this moment. My moment. And then came the line that shattered everything. "And this, Rebecca, is your 25th birthday." I stood there, still, as my world tilted on its axis. For years, I had been living in the shadow of my older brother, Ethan. I had never once questioned his authority or the way he handled things. He had been the leader, the protector, the one who carried our family forward after our parents died. But now I understood the truth. I wasn't just his little sister. I wasn't just the one who followed. I was the heir. Ethan's face drained of color as he realized the truth too. His eyes met mine, wide, desperate, and filled with rage. But I couldn't look away. I couldn't hide anymore. I wasn't the little girl who needed him. I was the one who had the power now. I wasn't just walking down that aisle to marry my fiancé. I was walking toward a new life, one where I finally had control. Ethan's face was a picture of disbelief. His jaw tightened, his eyes narrowing as Mr. Caldwell finished reading the will. I could see the years of control he'd worked so hard to build crumbling right before his eyes. The anger that radiated from him was palpable, sharp, like a knife poised to strike. But this time, it wasn't going to be aimed at me. It was aimed at everything he thought he could hold on to. His eyes locked with mine, and for the first time, I didn't look away. I couldn't. There was too much at stake now. Too much I hadn't known. Too much that he had hidden from me, from all of us. For a brief, horrifying moment, I saw the truth in his eyes. This wasn't just about power. It was about fear. Fear that one day I would take everything from him. The company, the legacy, our parents' hard work. Ethan had spent his whole life keeping me in the dark, making sure I never questioned his position, making sure I stayed dependent on him, thinking I couldn't possibly run the business, thinking I would never be capable. And the worst part? I had trusted him. I had always believed in him. I had let him handle everything, thinking he was doing it for us, for our future. I never once thought that he might be doing it for himself, so he could have everything. It hit me like a punch to the gut. He had seen me as a threat all along. Not just a sister, not just family, but as competition. I wanted to scream, to yell, to accuse him of everything I'd been too blind to see. But I didn't. Because I realized, in that quiet moment, I didn't need to. Ethan couldn't block what was already set in motion. The power was slipping from his grasp, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. I wasn't just the little sister anymore. I was the one who held the keys. It was a moment I'll never forget, the exact second when I realized that the world as I knew it was no longer mine. It wasn't just about the business or the inheritance. It was about control. Ethan's control, slipping away. The power he thought he had, the grip he'd kept on our family's empire for years, was dissolving faster than he could process it. I watched him, standing there frozen, trying to piece together his next move. His face was pale, his breath shallow, his hands gripping the sides of the chair like they were the only things keeping him upright. He'd expected everything, except this. The air between us was thick, the silence unbearable. I didn't need to say a word. His silence spoke volumes, louder than anything I could have shouted. He knew. He knew it was over. I could feel my hands trembling at my sides, but not from fear. From something else. It was quiet at first, just a whisper inside my head, a sense of realization, like a gentle wave that gradually builds until it crashes against the shore with unrelenting force. I wasn't just taking control. I was reclaiming what was always mine. He tried to say something, anything, but the words caught in his throat. His usual confidence was gone, replaced by an air of desperation. I wasn't going to be manipulated anymore. I wasn't going to shrink into the background while he kept playing the game of superiority. As I stood there, in front of him, in front of the guests, something shifted in me. I wasn't the girl who always deferred to him. I wasn't just the little sister anymore. I was the rightful heir. And that was a truth Ethan would never be able to undo. It wasn't supposed to be like this. I had envisioned walking down that aisle with nothing but joy in my heart. A new chapter, a fresh start. I was supposed to be surrounded by love, a lifetime of happiness ahead of me, and yet, all I could think about in that moment was the weight of everything I was now responsible for. The words of the will still echoed in my mind, and Ethan's face, white with shock, lingered in front of me. The power had shifted so quickly, I hadn't even had time to process it fully. But I wasn't about to let it all slip away. Not today. The guests were still milling around, some of them whispering, unsure of what had just happened. There was a tension in the air, a kind of stillness that had replaced the excitement that should have filled this room. I could feel it in my bones. This wasn't how I'd planned it. But then, as I stood there, facing Ethan's defeated expression, something inside me hardened. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was about reclaiming my life, my family's legacy, my future. Ethan had stolen enough from me. But not today. Not in front of everyone who had witnessed his betrayal. I took a deep breath, the same one I'd taken when I first learned the truth about our parents' estate. And I walked forward. I didn't look back at Ethan. I couldn't. I could hear the soft clicking of my heels on the floor, the sound strangely loud in the quiet that surrounded me. With every step, I felt more confident, more empowered. I wasn't just walking down the aisle to marry the love of my life. I was walking into a future where I would no longer let anyone control my destiny. I was done being the sister in the shadow. Today, I was the woman in charge. The day after my wedding, everything felt different. The weight of the decisions I had made the day before, the ones that would change my life forever, hadn't fully settled in. The honeymoon, the quiet moments of joy, felt like a distant dream compared to the storm I had weathered the day before. But now, I had to face the reality of it all, the company, the estate, the life I was inheriting, not by bloodline or by accident, but by the sheer fact that my father had seen me for what I truly was. A capable, strong woman who could carry this family's legacy. I wasn't just the little sister anymore. I had a responsibility now, to myself, to my parents, to the business that was built with years of blood, sweat, and tears. And as I sat behind my father's desk, staring at the papers in front of me, the sharp, cold sense of responsibility filled me, and I realized just how much I was capable of. The board members were waiting for me in the conference room. Some of them looked unsure. Some of them looked annoyed. Ethan had been their leader, their point of contact. And now? They had no idea what to expect from me. It would have been easy to cower under their gaze, to second-guess every decision I made. But as I walked into that room, I felt something I had never felt before. Power. I didn't have to follow Ethan's path. I didn't have to answer to anyone but myself. I could feel their eyes on me, measuring me. But this time, I wasn't scared. I wasn't intimidated by the weight of their expectations. I was going to lead this company with strength and clarity, not with the fear of what they thought of me. The power shift was real, and it wasn't just financial. It was in the air, in the way I held myself, in the way I spoke. I wasn't just Rebecca anymore. I was the one in charge. Ethan didn't take losing control gracefully. That much was clear from the moment I took over. I could feel his eyes on me, his constant attempts to undermine me, even in the quietest of ways. He was good at playing the victim, always looking for the loophole, trying to twist every word I said, every decision I made. He hated being on the other side of the table. He hated that I was now the one who held the power. At first, he tried to go behind my back. He'd call me into his office, pretending to discuss business matters, but I could tell he was trying to subtly chip away at my confidence. He'd suggest ideas, his ideas, like I hadn't already made up my mind. He'd question my choices, act like I didn't understand the intricacies of running the company. But I wasn't that naive little girl anymore. It became a game to me. I'd listen, nod, and then take a quiet moment to make my decisions. I didn't need his approval. I didn't need his validation. I had learned the hard way that the only approval I needed was my own. It wasn't long before Ethan realized that his tactics weren't working. He couldn't make me doubt myself. I wasn't going to crumble under the weight of his manipulation. And the more he tried, the more isolated he became. The board noticed, too. They started backing me up, offering their support in ways that spoke louder than any words could. One day, in a meeting, Ethan's temper flared. He stood up, his face flushed with anger, and for the first time, I saw the cracks in his carefully crafted facade. His voice cracked as he demanded things go his way. But the board wasn't listening anymore. His influence had been slipping for months. But this was the moment it all came crashing down. He was no longer the one in charge. And in that moment, I realized something. It wasn't just about the company. It was about Ethan's inability to let go, to accept that I was stronger than he ever believed. His fall was inevitable. I sat at my desk, the morning light filtering through the large windows of my father's office. It was quiet, peaceful almost. The city outside buzzed with life, but in here, everything felt still, controlled. In some ways, it felt like I had just stepped into this role. In other ways, it felt like I had always been meant for it. I'd never expected any of this, never expected to be the one with the final say, the one who would dictate the future of the company, the one who would steer the ship. Growing up, It was always Ethan who had been the one to lead, the one who made the decisions. It wasn't until that day, the day the will was read aloud, that I realized just how much had been taken from me, how much I had been kept in the dark, how much had been manipulated. But now, I was in charge. I wasn't just the sister anymore. I wasn't just the one who had to live under Ethan's shadow, trying to please everyone and fit in. I had reclaimed what was mine, and I was building something new, something of my own. The phone rang on my desk, pulling me from my thoughts. It was Sarah, my best friend, and I smiled as I picked up. "You did it," she said, her voice full of pride. "You really did it." I leaned back in my chair, staring out at the city that now felt like it belonged to me. "Yeah," I said quietly. "I did." And for the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of peace settle inside me. Ethan was no longer a threat. The business was no longer a burden. It was mine. All mine. I didn't need anyone to validate me anymore. I had taken what was stolen and built something stronger in its place. This was the beginning of my new life. The one where I wasn't living in anyone's shadow. The one where I could finally stand tall.